Alright, time for a little update on the Ranger. Done a lot since the last video. Just gonna give you a quick overview. The main thing I got installed is I got AC put in, and it was actually quite a project. Went to a junkyard and got the main line that comes out and across the front of the engine, and it's a manifold that runs to the back. Fortunately, when you mount the AC, there's no room for the charcoal canister, so I had to temporarily zip tie it up here until I can find somewhere to do with it. As you can see, the compressor goes right here. And then this is the line right here that comes out of the back and runs through the front. So I had to add a condenser to the front of the radiator, and I had to put in a Spal fan. The first fan I bought was thinner, but on a really hot day with the AC running, the truck would get up to like 220 degrees, and it was getting too hot. So I had to make a little more room and redid the radiator mounts, moved it into the front of the truck a little bit more just to get enough clearance. It's hard to see, but there's no clearance at all. In fact, the fan had to be a little low just so it would fit under the water pump fully. But this new fan pulls 2100 CFM, and that's what I'm doing right now is a little test to make sure that it won't overheat, and I can't get it to go over 200 degrees with the AC on. And then I have a Hayden fan controller that's wired up here, down in here. And there's a probe that goes into the radiator, and it's set to come on at 190 degrees, and it would turn off if it ever reached 185 or 180, I can't remember which, but once it turns on, it's pretty much on. And then there's an override that runs, it's a wire that runs from the switch here for the AC to the fan controller. The purple wire you tap into, and that's 12 volts when you have the AC on, so it automatically starts the fan up whenever the AC is running. Got a nice cold lines. AC works great. Here's the condenser. I have to mount it to the front of the radiator, and I actually use the condenser from a 97 Explorer 5.0. It's mounted to this Ranger 4-liter radiator, and there was no way that those would mount together, so I had to come up with some brackets and do some rigging, but it worked out pretty good, and so far everything's working really well. What matters is that the AC blows nice and cold, and our coolant temperature is holding nice and steady at 190 degrees. Also, I installed a factory radio out of a newer, this one actually came out of a Excursion, but it's just a standard similar mount like you put in a Ranger with the two prongs on each side. The difference is this uses like the world connector from the like the 2000 era Ranger. So I just cut the wires off the factory wiring and wired in that newer connector to plug right into the factory radio. Then I noticed that I had an issue and the audio sounded kind of bad. And what it turned out it was is that this Ranger came with the factory premium sound, which to today's standards isn't very premium, but what that means is that there's an amplifier in the back behind the speaker under the panel. There was actually an amplifier. I had to find the wiring for that amplifier, and I downloaded a schematic off the 12volt.com, and actually had to cut the amplifier out of the circuit and just directly wire the in and outs, so the wiring from here would go directly to the speakers when you turn on the radio. So now it sounds a lot better. It sounds just basically like it should for a factory radio. Nothing really impressive. One thing I don't really like is the earlier Explorers and Rangers had a bluish green color, and then the later cars had the green. So I'm going to see if I can find the controls from like a 2000 Ranger from a junkyard, swap them out, and that'll fix that to match the dashboard, and then everything will look good. Only other projects I got left to do is I need to get an alignment on the front end. replace the manifold gaskets, the header gaskets for both the engine. There's a leak. And the last thing is, which is kind of common in these, is the dome light stays on once it comes on. And I got a new dome light installed because the one that was on there was broken off. And the problem is actually in the dash here behind the radio to the left. There's a, I think it's called the smart junction box in later cars. You know, basically it's where all the relays are for the truck, and the counters and the timer and everything for the cruise control and the lights. The only thing that I have not working is the lights, and a lot of people would tell you that it's the door switch, because that's a very common thing in Rangers. There's a switch in the lock here that turns the light on and off. That's actually not the problem in my case, because as you can see, the door switch works fine. When I open and close the door, it knows when it's open and closed. The problem is the counter, the relay in here, timer, never times out, so the dome light just stays on forever. So that'll be a new project. Just have to basically buy a new one of those, swap it in. It's pretty easy. We'll actually show you guys how to do that one. Alright, well, I just wanted to give you a quick update on the Project 5.0 Ranger, what I've done since the last time. I'm sure there's something I'm forgetting, because it's coming a long way, but just trying to get everything done so I can actually enjoy driving it. See you next time.